It was an ordinary afternoon in Denver. A retired factory worker named George had just finished sorting his spare change. Decades of habit dropping coins in an old coffee tin had become part of his daily routine. But buried at the bottom, beneath layers of forgotten pennies and tarnished nickels, was a 1988 D-Mint Mark Washington quarter. At first glance, nothing seemed unusual. No glitter. No shine. Just another quarter, or so he thought, but what George didn't realize is that this one simple coin held a secret, one that would shock the entire coin collecting world. You see, in 1988, something happened at the Denver Mint that shouldn't have. A rare, undocumented error. One that never made it into official records, and only a handful of these quarters ever slipped into circulation. Collectors would later call it the ghost minting. And the few who found one, they're now holding onto million-dollar miracles. In the late 1980s, the U.S. Mint was churning out coins at lightning speed. Demand was high. Precision was negotiable. Machines were being pushed to their limits. Quality control wasn't what it is today. That's when a batch of Washington quarters, specifically minted in Denver, started coming off the presses with a flaw so rare, so strange, that experts didn't even know it existed until years later. At first, no one noticed. The coins went into bags, the bags into banks, and from there, into pockets, vending machines, glove compartments, forgotten. But decades later, a few of these coins resurfaced, and what they revealed shook the foundations of modern numismatics. It's something almost invisible to the untrained eye, but when seen under magnification, it's unmistakable. The D-Mint mark, meant to sit proudly beneath Washington's ponytail, was doubled. But not in the usual way. It wasn't a common doubled die. It wasn't machine doubling. It was what experts now call a ghost overstrike, a rare minting anomaly where the original D was struck, misaligned, then struck again, slightly offset, creating an eerie shadow effect. On some of these 1988 quarters, a faint S from the San Francisco Mint appears ghosted beneath the D. This shouldn't be possible. The U.S. Mint has strict protocols separating dies from different mints. No one has a clear answer. Some speculate it was a misassigned die. Others whisper about a rogue Mint employee testing die combinations late at night, never meant for release. Whatever the truth is, that anomaly has made this coin one of the rarest in modern history. And here's where it gets wild. In 2023, a man from Arizona unknowingly listed one of these quarters on eBay. Starting bid, 25 cents. It sold within hours, not for 25 cents, not $4.25, but $4.47000. Then came the flood. Collectors scramble through old rolls. Dealers began scanning every 1988 D quarter they'd ever stocked. Authenticated by PCGS, sold at auction for a staggering $1.20 million. The coin was flawless, mint condition, the doubling, ghosted S, and overstrike were all present, and pristine. But what happened next stunned even the top collectors. An anonymous bidder from New York who flew to the auction in a private jet, and paid in full, in cash. Because he believed this coin was just the beginning, that there were more errors from that year, still hidden, still waiting to be found. According to Mint production logs, over 596 million Washington quarters were made in 1988 at the Denver Mint, but based on known samples, fewer than 20 of these error coins have ever been found. That's one in every 30 million. It must be 1988, and the Mint mark must be D, right under Washington's hairline. Next, under good lighting or magnification, inspect the D closely. If it looks doubled, especially if there's a shadow D slightly misaligned beneath the main one, you may be looking at a rare double strike. But if, and this is where it gets truly legendary, if you spot a ghost S barely visible beneath or behind the D, you may be holding a coin worth over $1 million. Countless people have mistaken common wear and tear for valuable doubling. You need it professionally graded. Only PCGS and NGC have authenticated known $1 million versions, and here's a final chilling twist. One woman from Florida claims she found two in the same coin roll. One was graded and confirmed lost during shipping. Never recovered. Some believe it's still out there, circulating through change machines, coffee shop tip jars, or resting quietly in someone's junk drawer, waiting up. That's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about metal and mint marks. It's about the stories, the secrets, the silent fortunes hiding in plain sight. So the next time you pick up a quarter, look closely. That 1988 D in your hand could be the one, not the one that was almost thrown away, but is actually worth over $1 million. That's right, a 2015 Bombay Hook quarter, minted in Philadelphia, turned a quiet collector into an overnight millionaire. And it all started with a glint of silver in a handful of loose change. Most people wouldn't think twice about a quarter. They slide it across counters, drop it into parking meters, or lose it in car seats. But this one? This one was different. It had a secret, a tiny flaw so rare, so valuable, that it set the entire numismatic world on fire, because buried beneath its ordinary appearance was a life-changing minting error. Collectors were stunned. Dealers scrambled to verify it. And one man's pocket change turned into $1 million miracle. But what made this 2015 Bombay Hook quarter so incredibly valuable? The story is deeper, stranger, and more emotional than you can imagine. Let's rewind to 2015, when the US Mint released a new quarter as part of the America the Beautiful series. Bombay Hook National Wildlife Refuge in Delaware was chosen as one of the featured designs. The artwork was breathtaking, graceful egrets waiting in a mirror-still marsh, framed by trees, etched in silver. To the casual observer, it was just another national park quarter. But to a trained eye, to a collector who knows what to look for, one batch of these coins held a minting mystery worth over $1 million, and it all traces back to the Philadelphia Mint, the P mark on the obverse, where a tiny, catastrophic error changed everything. It was a misstrike. Not just a little die crack, not just a rim error. This was something that happened in the core mechanics of the press, a rare misalignment in the collar die, combined with a weak strike and a doubled die reverse. The result? A 1 in a billion coin that technically never should have left the facility, but did, and it ended up in circulation. The man who found it? A retired Navy vet from Pennsylvania, flipping through a roll of quarters he'd picked up from the bank, something he did every Friday out of habit. For years, he'd searched dozens of rolls, hundreds of coins, always hoping, never quitting, until this one. He almost missed it. The difference was subtle, a faint doubling in the egret's wing, a shift in the reeds. But his gut told him it was worth a second look. What he discovered next shook the entire coin community. The coin had 3 major errors: a doubled die reverse where the birds in marsh appear ghosted behind themselves, a collar clash that left ridged anomalies along the rim, and a die rotation that slightly twisted the reverse design off axis. 3 errors. 1 coin. 0 known duplicates. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. He brought it to a local dealer, who didn't believe it at first. Said it was probably a postman error. Said it was worth $20, maybe $50. But the vet didn't give up. He sent it to PCGS for grading. 3 weeks later, the call came. The grader was breathless. "Sir, you need to sit down." It graded MS-67 with confirmed triple mint errors. PCGS had never seen anything like it on a 2015 Bombay Hook. The market hadn't either, and within days, offers started flooding in. $10,000. $40,000. Then $100,000. And then, in a private auction closed to the public, a collector from Texas placed a winning bid of $1.30 million. Quarter. Found in a bankroll. Worth more than a luxury home in Malibu. Collectors were floored. Forums lit up. Everyone wanted to know how they'd missed it. And more importantly, could there be more? Experts believe up to 6 of these flawed quarters may have slipped into circulation, but only one has ever been found, and if you're listening to this right now, the next one could be in your pocket. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Let's talk about what to look for. First, check the mint mark. It must be a 2015 Bombay Hook quarter with a P mint mark for Philadelphia. Next, examine the reverse, the side with the egrets and the marsh. Look closely at the bird's wings and the tall grass. If you see any ghosting, shadowing, or doubling, especially along the bird's neck or the tree line, that's a red flag. Now check the coin's edge. Does the reading, the tiny ridges, look uneven, bent, or out of place? That could be a collar clash, a major error that adds thousands to its value. Finally, try rotating the coin. If the reverse design seems slightly off-center or tilted compared to the obverse, the side with Washington, that's the die rotation, the final piece of the $1 million puzzle. And here's something most people overlook: many fakes and damaged coins can look close, but the real $1 million quarter has all 3 of these rare features combined in one coin. Dealers are now actively hunting rolls of 2015 Bombay Hook quarters, buying sealed boxes from banks, and scanning eBay listings daily. Because if a second one appears, it could spark a bidding war like we've never seen before. Imagine holding a simple quarter and realizing it's your ticket to freedom, to a dream home, to paying off every debt you've ever had. That's what happened for one man, because he took the time to look closely. So here's the question: are you willing to check your change, roll your quarters, and search through the ordinary to find the extraordinary? because this exact coin could be sitting in your drawer right now and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up inside a vending machine, but just days later it was sitting in a collector's vault, with a price tag of over $1 million. It was hiding in plain sight, right there in someone's loose change tray. This is the story of the 2000p South Carolina quarter. A coin that was never supposed to be special, but became one of the most valuable errors in modern US mint history. A mistake so rare, so unthinkable, that collectors today are offering up to $1.4 million for the right one. But to understand how this seemingly ordinary state quarter became a $1 million miracle, you need to know what went wrong deep inside the Philadelphia Mint, because what happened behind those doors left a trail of clues that only the sharpest eyes can catch, and one man, a janitor's son from Ohio, caught it. But we'll get to that first. Take a look at the South Carolina quarter, part of the 50 state quarters program. Issued in the year 2000, a wildly successful run that brought millions of new eyes into coin collecting. South Carolina was the 8th state honored, and at first glance, it looks like every other quarter. Palmetto tree, Carolina wren, yellow jessamine flowers. It's a patriotic design. Clean, balanced, but on a small batch of these coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint, something went terribly wrong, and that wrong became worth over $1 million. We're talking about a rare combination of minting errors, a misaligned die, a misplaced date, and on some, a double strike that created a ghost-like shadow of the original design, barely visible unless you tilt the coin just right under the light. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A Florida man, 67 years old, found the coin in a pile of quarters he was rolling up for laundry. He almost didn't notice the misstrike. It was only when he flipped it over and saw the obverse, Washington's face, smeared, distorted, ghosted, that he felt something was off. He brought it to a local dealer. The dealer laughed, said, "It's damage." But the man didn't give up. 2 weeks later, that coin was certified by PCGS as an authentic multiple error quarter with a die cap and off-center strike, and when it hit the auction block in Texas, the bidding war went nuclear. Collectors were shocked, dealers were calling each other in disbelief. That South Carolina quarter sold for over $1.10 million, and it wasn't the only one. Not just months later, 2 more were discovered, both from 2000, both with P mint marks, both showing the same obscure flaw, a minuscule doubling on the date 2000, and a ghost image of the palmetto tree offset by just a few degrees, one of the most fascinating mint errors of the state quarter era. But here's the terrifying part: experts believe there may be only 4 or 5 in existence, which means one of them, just one, could still be sitting in someone's change jar in a drawer in your glove compartment, even stuck inside an old birthday card. And here's the kicker: because this coin comes from the year 2000, a time when quarters were heavily circulated and rarely examined for errors, most people wouldn't even think to look twice. But you're not most people. You're here, searching for that needle in the haystack, because finding this coin doesn't just mean winning the collector's lottery, it means being part of one of the greatest modern coin discoveries of our time. The obverse, that's George Washington's side, is the first clue. A genuine $1 million error shows a slight double strike, with Washington's profile looking stretched or shadowed near the jawline, but it's subtle, not like damage from being dropped. It looks like a shadow, like a second face whispering beneath the surface. Then, check the date, look at the zeros in 2000. If you see faint doubling, not scratches, not wear, but actual layered outlines inside the digits, you could be holding a coin worth over $1 million tilted under a strong light. If the palmetto tree seems misaligned, or if you see a faint doubling near the yellow jessamine blossoms, you're in rare territory. And this is crucial, if you see even a trace of a die cap effect, where one part of the coin surface looks almost bubbled or dome-shaped, that's when you get it certified immediately, because that's what the man from Ohio did. Yes, the janitor's son. He found his South Carolina quarter at a gas station off Route 30. Paid for coffee with a 10, got the change, and something about one coin felt off. It didn't spin quite right. It had weight, but a strange feel on the edges. He took it home, looked closer, and there it was. A coin that would change his life. That quarter, authenticated by NGC, ended up selling in a private sale for $1.40 million, and the story hit headlines, from change jar to fortune. $1 million mistake. But still, most people missed it, because they weren't looking. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these rare errors now. Collectors are scrambling through old rolls, eBay listings, even pawn shops. But the clock is ticking. These coins were minted 25 years ago. Time and circulation wears away the clues. So if you're going to find one, the moment is now. And before we end, let's be crystal clear on how to identify the 2000p South Carolina $1 million quarter. It must have a P mint mark. For Philadelphia, just to the right of Washington's ponytail. Look for double strikes or shadowing on Washington's face. Examine the date 2000 closely. Any signs of doubling inside the digits are a major red flag in the best possible way. Number 4, on the reverse, tilt the coin under bright light. Watch the palmetto tree. If it shifts, ghosts, or appears misaligned, that's your gold mine. If there's any dome-like warping or smooth bubble-like texture on one surface even slightly, you may be holding a rare die cap error. A simple quarter from 1966, no mint mark, nothing flashy, and yet, when collectors found out what was hiding in plain sight, the coin world went silent, because this wasn't just any Washington quarter. It was a silent survivor, a mysterious misprint from a chaotic chapter in U.S. mint history, a coin whose true story had been buried for decades, until one lucky collector, sorting through a box of old change, discovered something that defied all logic. What he found sent shockwaves through auction houses and ignited a firestorm of bidding wars. One lucky coin that changed everything. But how did a 1966 quarter with no mint mark become $1 million mystery? To answer that, we need to go back to a time when America was on the brink of numismatic chaos. In 1965, the U.S. Mint made a drastic decision: silver was gone completely. For nearly 2 centuries, American coins had been struck in silver, but rising costs forced the government to make a change. Enter clad coinage, a mix of copper and nickel layered like a coin sandwich. 1966 was the second year of this transformation, and things at the mint were far from perfect. Machines jammed, dies cracked, presses ran overtime. The inspectors were overwhelmed, and somewhere in the frenzy, a few coins slipped through the cracks, coins that should have never been released, coins like the one we're talking about today, because in 1966, the U.S. Mint didn't use mint marks. Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco struck coins, but no matter where they came from, they were all anonymous. Nop, no D, no S. So how can one 1966 quarter, with no mint mark, be worth more than $1.5 million? That's where this story takes a turn. One man, an estate picker from Ohio, was clearing out a box of inherited coins. It was late, past midnight, and he was ready to toss most of it into a Coinstar, but something caught his eye. This quarter had an unusual sheen, a strange thickness, and then he noticed it. The rim was wrong, the edge, the reading wasn't typical. It didn't match any modern quarter. He waited, and it came in lighter than expected. Curious, he took it to a dealer friend. The friend ran tests, and both men turned pale, because this 1966 quarter had been struck on a transitional planchet. A leftover blank from the silver era. A coin that shouldn't exist, and that was just the beginning. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The coin was submitted to PCGS. Authentication confirmed the impossible: a rare 1966 quarter, no mint mark, struck on a silver planchet, with error characteristics that had never been documented before. Word spread like wildfire. Dealers were stunned, collectors lined up offers, and when the coin hit auction, bidding escalated in seconds. $20,000, $80,000, $400,000, and then silence. The final bid came in at just over $1.50 million. One coin. One quarter. One ordinary piece of change that became a life-changing miracle. There could be more out there. Because 1966 was a chaotic year, leftover silver blanks were still circulating, the mint was under pressure to produce billions of coins fast, and mistakes like this didn't just happen once. Start with the edge. A normal 1966 quarter has a copper-colored edge, the sandwich of copper and nickel, but if yours shows a clean, solid silver rim with no copper stripe, pause and next. Weigh the coin. A standard clad quarter weighs 5.67 grams. A silver planchet weighs 6.25 grams. That tiny difference could be worth a fortune. Then, the sound: tap the coin on a hard surface. Silver has a higher pitch, a bell-like ring. Clad quarters sound dull, flat, like cheap metal. That ring could be the sound of $1 million. And finally, look for any strike errors. Off-center designs, doubled lettering, weak rims, even a tiny irregularity could raise the value dramatically. Do not clean the coin. Even wiping it can destroy its value. Collectors and graders want natural surfaces, original luster. Cleaning turns $1 million miracle into a $2 tragedy. It only takes one coin. One moment. One flash of curiosity when you're sorting your change, because that's exactly how it happened before, and it will happen again, somewhere out there, in a dusty jar, in an old coin roll, in a forgotten drawer. Another 1966 quarter is waiting. They won't just be lucky, they'll be part of coin collecting history. This is more than a hobby. It's a treasure hunt. It's the thrill of the unknown, the chance that your next coin could change your life forever. So the next time you hear that clink in your pocket, pay attention, look closer, because this exact quarter, this one right here, could be hiding in your house right now. It was an ordinary day in Tampa, Florida. A man in his 60s emptied his pockets after paying for coffee, and there it was. A dull, scratched-up quarter from 1981. Nothing special, or so it seemed. But what he didn't know was that this quarter had a secret. A hidden flaw. A mistake so rare, so deeply buried in U.S. Mint history, that collectors today would fight tooth and nail to own one nut, and just months later, that same coin would rock the entire coin collecting world, selling for $1.6 million at a private auction. But why? What made this 1981 quarter worth more than a Lamborghini, a beach house, and a retirement plan combined? Here's where the story turns from ordinary to legendary. In 1981, the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was under pressure. The economy was shaky, inflation was climbing, and coin production had to ramp up fast. Corners were cut. Machines ran overtime. And somewhere in the chaos, a small batch of Washington quarters left the Philadelphia Mint with a nearly invisible, but catastrophic flaw. Some say it was a die clash, a brutal mechanical misfire where the metal dies slammed into each other with no coin between them. Others whisper that a rare planchet mix-up occurred, an experimental metal composition never meant to see the light of day. But whatever the cause, one thing is certain: a handful of these 1981 P quarters were struck with a combination of errors so rare, experts still debate how they even happened. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because nobody noticed, not for decades, for nearly 40 years. These quarters circulated quietly, bought, sold, tossed into jars, used in vending machines, lost under car seats. Forgotten until one sharp-eyed collector spotted something strange. The coin felt lighter. The color was off, almost a ghostly silver gray, with an eerie luster that didn't match any other coin in his collection. Then he looked closer. The rim was misaligned. The eagle on the reverse looked muted, almost flat, a classic sign of die wear or possibly an over-polished die. But the most shocking detail? The mint mark. A faint, ghost-like P, smaller than usual. Misplaced. As if someone had hand-punched it, off-center. He brought the coin to a local dealer. The man laughed at first. "It's just pocket change," he said, but then, silence. The dealer leaned in, pulled out a magnifier, and his face went pale. "This shouldn't exist," he whispered, and just like that, the 1981 P quarter mystery exploded. Phone calls were made. Experts consulted. Microscopic scans run. And every time they peeled back another layer of evidence, the value climbed higher. By the time it hit the private auction floor, whispers were already circulating. A multi-millionaire collector from New York had flown in just to bid. A tech entrepreneur from California placed a proxy bid through an agent, and an anonymous buyer from Dubai reportedly called in an offer before the auction even began. But when the final gavel dropped, the room erupted. $1.6 million. For a coin that once bought a pack of gum. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to review their own 1981 quarters. And suddenly, the hunt was on, because here's the terrifying truth: nobody knows how many of these rare 1981 P errors are still out there. They could be buried in your change jar, stuffed between couch cushions, hiding in plain sight. And here's the kicker: this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The ghost-like P mint mark. Slightly off-center. Underweight by a fraction of a gram. And sometimes, struck on a foreign planchet, likely meant for another denomination entirely. Some have sharp doubling on the Liberty or "In God We Trust." Others show faint reading on the edge where there shouldn't be any, a leftover trace from improper blank preparation. Every one of these clues is like gold dust. And if you spot just one, your coin could be worth a fortune. But the danger is real, because millions of 1981 P quarters were minted. Most are worth face value, 25 cents. They blend in. They hide. They beg to be ignored, and that's what makes them so deadly valuable. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle simply because he took a second look. First, the mint mark. If the P is small, lightly punched, or appears oddly shaped, you may be looking at a hand-punched error. The U.S. Mint stopped using hand-punched mint marks shortly after this era. That alone raises eyebrows. Next, the coin's weight. A normal 1981 quarter should weigh 5.67 grams. If yours weighs significantly less or more, say, in the 5.2 or 5.9 range, it may be struck on the wrong metal. That's extremely rare, and extremely valuable. Then check the design. Is the eagle on the back flat or missing detail in the feathers? That could be a sign of a worn die or clash. Some rare examples even have an inverted die alignment. Flip the coin vertically, and the reverse is upside down. That's a major error. Finally, listen to your instincts. If something about the coin feels off, it's worth investigating. Many of these million-dollar coins didn't look flashy or shiny. They looked ordinary, even worn. But beneath the surface, they were priceless. But here's the chilling truth: most people will throw these coins away. They'll spend them on coffee, gum, parking meters, never realizing they held the key to a life-changing fortune in their hands. So the next time you get a 1981 quarter with a P mint mark, don't assume it's worthless, because one of these coins just sold for $1.6 million, and yours might be next. Collectors are still searching. Dealers are still stunned, and the legend of the 1981 P quarter is just beginning. It was tossed in with pocket change. Forgotten in a jar. Just another coin from 1999. But this single quarter, with a tiny P mint mark and an image of a tree, would soon leave the coin world speechless, because when it resurfaced, it sold for $1.7 million, and what made it worth a fortune was something no one expected. One detail, hiding in plain sight. This is the story of a coin so ordinary, yet so unbelievably rare, that it turned a forgotten drawer find into $1 million miracle, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to spot it yourself, because it could be sitting in your home right now. But first, let's go back. To the year 1999. A new millennium was just around the corner. Y2K panic was in the air. And the US Mint was launching something brand new, the 50-state quarters program. Millions of collectors were ecstatic. Suddenly, every American pocket could contain a piece of history. Connecticut was the last coin released that year, featuring the legendary charter oak, the tree that once hid Connecticut's royal charter from British forces in the 1600s. And in Philadelphia, over 600 million of these quarters were minted with a tiny P mark, but hidden among them was something else. A mistake. A mutation. A minting anomaly so rare, it would change one collector's life forever. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because the person who found it almost didn't. It was a retired veteran, cleaning out an old coffee can of change. He almost threw the quarter out, mistaking it for a tarnished, common piece, but something caught his eye. It wasn't the tree, it wasn't the shine, it was the rim. He noticed it fell off. Almost doubled, and when he turned the coin under the light, the truth hit him like a freight train. He wasn't holding a normal quarter, he was holding the Connecticut quarter, the one with the double die error. His hands shook. He couldn't believe it. He rushed to a local coin dealer, who turned pale the moment he saw it. Within weeks, it was authenticated, graded at a near-perfect MS68, and entered into one of the most competitive coin auctions in U.S. history. $1,700,000. Why would any quarter, especially one made in 1999, be worth more than a Lamborghini, a house, and a college education combined? Because only a handful are known to exist, and most were never caught. But here's the twist: this isn't just about one rare quarter. It's about a hidden phenomenon that happened during production, and only the sharpest eyes can spot it. But before I show you how to identify it, there's one more detail you need to hear, because this story doesn't end with just one collector. A second example was discovered, in a completely different state. A man in Arizona found one in a parking lot, lying face down in the dirt. He picked it up because of its weight. It didn't feel right. He didn't even know it was valuable until he uploaded a blurry photo to a coin forum. The comments exploded: "You might be sitting on a six-figure coin." And sure enough, weeks later, his quarter sold for over $850,000. Collectors were shocked, dealers were scrambling to examine every Connecticut quarter they could get their hands on, and the hunt is still on, because experts believe dozens more are still out there. In change jars, under car seats, buried in yard sales and flea markets. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Now here's what to look for. Start with the front or obverse of the coin. Focus on the word Liberty in the year 1999. In the rarest Connecticut quarters, you'll see doubling, slight overlaps, shadow-like impressions that weren't supposed to be there. This is called a double die obverse, or DDO. It happens when the die, the metal stamp that strikes the coin, shifts slightly between strikes. The result? Letters and numbers that look like they've been stamped twice. Flip the coin to the reverse, the tree side. Look closely at the bark and the word Connecticut. Some high-value errors show ghosting in the leaves. Others have missing details on the roots. A few are even struck off-center, and one was struck on a mismatched planchet, meaning the metal blank used wasn't even meant for a quarter. Experts believe it's out there somewhere. So check your quarters, especially 1999 Connecticut quarters with the P mint mark. Many quarters from that year have wear and tear that looks like doubling, but isn't. True double dies have clean, raised edges. Machine damage will look smeared, not sharp. If you think you've got one, protect it immediately. Do not clean it. Store it in a coin flip or holder and take it to a trusted grader like PCGS or NGC. Even a lower grade DDO can fetch thousands, but here's the final twist. One anonymous collector has placed a standing offer of $2 million for a flawless, Mint State Connecticut DDO quarter if it also shows reverse die clash. That's the holy grail, and it's still unconfirmed. Could it be in your home? Your change? Your glove box. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Yours could too. So before you spend your next quarter, take a second look. That simple. Worn coin could be worth a fortune, because this exact quarter, the 1999 Connecticut quarter with the P Mint mark, has changed lives, and it could change yours. Check your coins. Stay curious, because $1 million secret could be hiding in plain sight right now, in your hands.